Introvert.
An introvert isn't someone who's shy or doesn't like people. It's someone who gets drained by people. Not because they're bad, just because socializing costs energy instead of creating it. After a long day with others, an introvert needs to recover in quiet, alone, with themselves. And that's not a mood, not rudeness. It's a basic need. Introverts often think deeper than they speak. They observe before they conclude. They'd rather have one honest conversation than 10 small talk exchanges. And if they chose to stay home tonight, that doesn't mean something's wrong with them. It means they know what they need. The biggest mistake is confusing silence with coldness. An introvert goes quiet not because they don't care, sometimes because they care too much.
And here's what people rarely understand about introverts. They're not antisocial. They're selectively social. There's a difference. They're not sitting at home wishing they were somewhere else. They're sitting at home genuinely content, recharging, thinking, creating, being. The party wasn't the problem. The mandatory small talk for 3 hours straight was. Introverts tend to live a lot of their life internally. They have rich inner worlds, long conversations with themselves, ideas they've been turning over for weeks before they say a single word about them out loud. And when they finally do speak, it's usually worth listening to, because they don't fill silence just to fill it. When an introvert says something, they mean it.
The pressure they face is real, though. A world built around open offices, networking events, and just speak up in the meeting doesn't naturally accommodate the way they work best. They perform better with preparation. They think more clearly in writing than on the spot. They do their best work alone or in small groups, not in brainstorms with 15 people talking over each other. That's not a limitation. That's a working style. And the introvert who finally stops apologizing for needing quiet, who stops forcing themselves into rooms and rhythms that exhaust them, that's the introvert who actually starts to thrive.
Extrovert. An extrovert is the complete opposite. People aren't a source of exhaustion for them. People are fuel. An extrovert thinks out loud. They process the world through conversation, through movement, through connection. They need to be in the flow, in a room full of people, in the middle of things. Not because they're vain, it's just how their mind works. And yes, sometimes an extrovert talks too much, fills the silence, rushes into a pause. Not with bad intentions. Quiet just makes them a little uncomfortable. The most common myth? Extroverts are shallow. Not true. They can be deep, attentive, genuine. They just find depth through connection with others, not through solitude. Ambivert. An ambivert doesn't fit either extreme. Sometimes they need company. Sometimes they need silence. Sometimes they're the life of the party. Sometimes they're the quiet observer in the corner. And both versions are real. That's not inconsistency. That's flexibility. Ambiverts often have the hardest time explaining themselves to others because they don't fit into ready-made categories. Today, they're inviting everyone out. Tomorrow, they disappear for 3 days. That's not mood swings. That's just the balance they're constantly searching for. And honestly, most people are ambiverts. We've just gotten used to dividing the world into 2 camps, even though most of us live somewhere in the middle.
Highly sensitive person. A highly sensitive person isn't someone who overreacts. It's someone whose nervous system literally processes more information than most people's does. A loud sound genuinely cuts through them. A harsh word stays for days. A film with suffering isn't just a movie. It's physically painful. And they feel other people's emotions in a room before they even understand where that feeling is coming from. Highly sensitive people often hear, "Don't take it so personally. You're overreacting. Just toughen up." But this isn't a willpower issue. It's the architecture of their nervous system. About 15 to 20% of people are wired exactly this way. And there's real strength in that sensitivity. They notice details others miss. They understand people on a deep level. They create things with soul. They just need more space, less noise, and people around them who don't treat their sensitivity like a problem.
But here's what rarely gets talked about. Being highly sensitive doesn't just mean you feel more. It means you process more. Every decision carries more weight. Every environment demands more from you. A busy office, a crowded mall, a tense conversation. These aren't just mildly uncomfortable. They're genuinely overwhelming. And by the end of the day, a highly sensitive person isn't just tired. They're completely saturated. That's why they need downtime that other people don't seem to need. Not because they're weak, because their system has been running at full capacity all day while everyone else was at half. They also tend to notice things that other people walk right past. The shift in someone's tone, the tension in a room that nobody's named yet, the detail in a piece of music that makes it quietly devastating. That depth of perception is a real gift in creative work, in leadership, in relationships. The people who truly make you feel seen, often they're highly sensitive.
The hardest part isn't the sensitivity itself. It's living in a world that wasn't built for it. A world that rewards speed over depth, loudness over nuance, thick skin over awareness. So if you're highly sensitive, the work isn't to become less sensitive. It's to build a life where your sensitivity is an asset, not a liability. Quieter environments, slower mornings, people who don't need you to be less of what you are.
Narcissist. Narcissist is a word everyone knows, but often uses imprecisely, because narcissism isn't just vanity. It's a defensive structure, built somewhere in the past to avoid feeling vulnerable. On the surface, confidence, grandeur, charm. They know how to make an impression. They know what to say. They know how to own a room. Inside, a fragile ego that can't handle criticism. Any feedback lands like an attack. Anyone else's success feels like a threat.
A narcissist doesn't ask, "How are you?" They wait for you to ask about them. They don't take responsibility, they redirect it. They don't hear your pain, they look for a way to turn the conversation back to themselves. That doesn't mean these people are hopeless, but it does mean waiting for genuine empathy from them is a costly way to spend yourself. You can feel compassion for their wound without letting it become your cage. An empath is the complete opposite of a narcissist. Where a narcissist can't feel you, an empath feels you too well. They walk into a room and already know who's struggling. They hear, "I'm fine," and understand that isn't true. They carry other people's pain close, sometimes literally physically. The line between their feelings and my feelings is blurred. That's a gift. And it's a trap. Because empaths attract people who need to vent, who need to be saved, who take without always giving back. The most important thing an empath needs to learn is that someone else's pain doesn't get smaller just because they absorb it. Care without boundaries isn't a virtue. It's slow self-depletion. You can be kind, just not at your own expense. Avoidant. An avoidant person isn't cold. They just learned not to need. Somewhere in the past, it doesn't matter when, it doesn't matter how, closeness turned out to be painful. People left or stayed but caused harm. And the mind drew a conclusion. It's safer not to let anyone too close. Safer to handle things alone. And now, when a relationship becomes real, when vulnerability shows up, something inside says, stop.
too close, need to pull back.
They don't disappear because they don't care. Sometimes exactly because it matters too much. Closeness is most frightening precisely when it's real. Being with an avoidant person is hard. You can't push them into intimacy. That only closes them off more. They need safety without pressure, time without ultimatums, and for themselves, honesty about what exactly they're running from.